Oh, here comes Dr. Roberts. Okay, here we go. We are learning Derech Hashem, and we are continuing in Chelik Daled, the fourth and final part of the Sefer, and we are finishing up chapter number 6, Bavodas Borenu, serving Hashem, which is really talking about Tefillah, the Shemona Esrei, and the Ramchal is going through the structure, the lead up to the Shemona Esrei, the Karbonos Psuke de Zimra, and the Brachos and Kriya Shema, which lead up to the Shemona Esrei, and then the sections that come after the Shemona Esrei. We discussed that. We also discussed the Shemona Esrei itself, which is structured as 3 brachos, then the 3 introductory brachos, then the 16 middle brachos, and then the 3 ending brachos. We're now at the top of page 324 in the classic Feldheim edition. And we're really picking up after a discussion that we began at the end of last week's class, where the Ramchal was now bringing in a whole nother dimension. He started by talking about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has different hashpa'os. This has been a theme that the Ramchal has been working with consistently through the Sefer, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu controls the world through a system of shefa, that a certain ratzon from Hashem emanates from Hashem, and that triggers one of the sharashim, one of the root hashpa'os, and then it kind of trickles down to a hierarchy of shefa from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Shemona Esrei is very much structured in that way because there are 3 primary shefas, which is why there's the 3 introductory brachos and the 3 ending brachos, and then the 16 brachos in the middle, 13, are focusing on the specific hashpos. So the very end of last week's class, he was introducing a whole nother dimension, not talking about those hashpos, but olamos. There are different worlds. There's Olam Hazeh, the physical world, and then there is the Olam HaMalachim, the world of the angels, and then above that is the Olam HaKisei, the world of the Kisei, of the throne, referring to the throne of glory. That was pretty esoteric, and then Hashem himself is on top of all of that. So now we're up to paragraph Yud Dal, number 14. Now he's going to take that concept of these different olamos and apply it to the structure of davening. According to this order, it was established the different parts of tefillah, the hainu, that being shalosh chalakim b'tchila, 3 sections first, v'tikun shalosh olamos, for the perfection of those 3 worlds, olam hazeh, olam hamalachim, olam hakisei, this world, the world of the angels, the world of the Kisei. The Zeh, what are those 3 components of our prayers that correspond with those 3 olamos? Be karbanos. The karbanos correlate with olam hazeh. Zmiros, the songs, and that of course is a reference to Psuke de Zimra, which is correlating with the olam hamalachim, the angels. Ubirchos Kriya Shema. And the blessings of Kriya Shema, that is, starting with Baruch Hu, that corresponds with the Olam HaKisei, the world of Hashem's throne. After all that is the standing Shemona Esrei, that lines up with the world of God himself. Bringing down those hashpos according to their different natures. And then after that, then there's another 3. Now connecting, drawing down the shefa that has been accessed through the Shemona Esrei to those 3 corresponding worlds. So how does that work? V'hainu kedusha desidra. First is the kedusha desidra. That's, Ashrei Uvalot Zion, Shir HaLevim, Shir Shel Yom is part number 2. The In Kelukenu is part number 3. V'achar kol zeh, and then after it's all over, Aleinu. After all that is Aleinu. V'hu lachazor ulahamlich machuz yizbarach al kol olamas acher shnizbarach mimenu. Aleinu is the grand finale, and that stands on its own, and that's focusing on Hashem's malchus, Hashem's kingship. After we have emphasized these 3 different olamos, both kind of on our way up and on our way down, now we firmly establish HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the king over all of these 3 worlds. That is the function of Aleinu. Now, the Ramchal has touched on a lot of the main parts of Tefillah, but there's a handful of sections that he has not mentioned at all. And I want to see if any of our listeners picked up on that. Again, building up, we had Karbonus, we had Psukkah Zimra, we had Birchas Kriya Shema, Shemana Esrei. And then after Shemana Esrei, he made mention of Kedusha de Sidra.
It's the Asher V'Otzion.
Asher V'Otzion, that's what that is, right? Then Shir Shel Yom, and then Ein Kelukenu. So what did he skip?
Tachanun.
Tachanun, very good. So Paul Osborne and Shmuel Platzker, we both had Tachanun. And for Nusach Sfard, we kind of might put it all, consider that all together with Tachanun, but there's a little something extra there that we have. Vidui, very good. So that brings us to the next paragraph of the Derech Hashem, Tezvav, number 15. V'hine, behold. Nischabu lazeh od k'tas inyanim. There has been joined into this a little bit of extra inyanim, extra concepts, pratiyim specific, la'oyer harachmim l'harbaz habracha, in order to arouse mercy and to increase blessing. Umiklal zeh, including in this, inyan havidui, is the vidui, the confession, haskaras shalosh esrei midos, the mention of the Yud Gimel midos, nefilas apayim, and nefilas apayim falling in our face, which is the name for Tachanun. So there are 3 add-ons, which the Ramchal is identifying as not part of the essential structure of the davening, but things that were added for the purpose of arousing mercy and increasing blessing. And how does that work? That is, kiavidui, confession, hulistum piamakatrigin. That is to close up the mouth of the prosecution, those prosecuting angels. Now, why is that I understand that that's a good idea, but why is that put specifically in conjunction with tefillah? Right, Ramchal, because there's a concern that those makatrigim, those prosecuting angels, they're going to push away our tefillos. They're going to interfere with our prayers. We're davening to Hashem, and we're crying out to Hashem, and we're asking Him for all these amazing things, all this blessing, all these things that we need so desperately. These prosecuting angels are going to get in the way. They're going to say, hey, this guy doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that. What's that all about? So we do the vidui, we confess, and that removes our sins, and then that closes up their mouths so that they cannot interfere with our tefillah ascending to Hashem.
What about Ashkenazi? What about Nisach Ashkenaz? They don't have that vidui every day, so what do they do?
They should start davening Nisach Sfard already. No, I'm joking. It's a good question. Honestly, my understanding is that even Nusach Ashkenaz originally had a vidui, but it was the minhag developed not to say it every single day because of a concern of vidui peh, because of a concern that when you do it every single day, every single tefillah, it loses its meaning, and it's done without the intent, and therefore it it doesn't accomplish its goal anyways. So that's my understanding, that the feeling was that even if you're saying it, you're not accomplishing what it's intended to accomplish anyways. So better to not say it so constantly and not have an additional strike against you, so to speak, of vidui peh, of doing a lip service. So that's the theory that I'm familiar with, but there might be other ideas. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So that is the vidui. Haskar shalosh esrei midos. The mentioning of Hashem's Yud Gimel Midos. That's again Nusach Sfard. Ze kocham sheyitfos ha'adon baruch hu b'midas harachmanos. They have a unique power. Very interesting language of the Michal here. To grab the master, may he be blessed, meaning to grab Hashem, tofes sheyitfos ha'adon baruch hu b'midas harachmanos. They seize Hashem's mercy. They grab hold of Hashem's mercy. Ubeshlitas rememuso ya'avor al pesha v'yochon av beheder aschus. And when that is the dominant power, Hashem will, so to speak, overlook sin, and he will be graceful. V'yochon, he will treat us with chen, even when there is a lack of schus, even when we don't have so many merits. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will still do that. So we have the vidui is to kind of remove the prosecution. Then we add a layer on top of that with the Yud Gimel Midos, with the 13 attributes of mercy, that arouses Hashem's divine mercy. And then finally, unefilas apayim, and then with the tachanun, afi kenia gedolo l'fanav yisborach. That is a very big subjugation, subjecting ourselves before Hashem, lowering ourselves before Hashem. Asher kocha gadol, its strength is very great. Le shetispayes midas hadin, to appease the divine judgment. So that's a little bit of a different, it's not necessarily arousing Hashem's mercy directly. What that's doing is that it's kind of cutting down the strict justice, the strict judgment, because we're lowering ourselves. When we stand tall and proud, then we are subject to much greater scrutiny, much greater judgment. But when we lower ourselves and we admit that we're lowly and that we are below Hashem and etc., then the judgment is much less strict. It brings about tremendous mercy. That causes the shevach to be brought about with multitude and with abundance and with breadth. So those three components, the vidui, the Yud Gimel Midos, and the tachanun, it's really a three-pronged approach of one purpose of kind of supercharging our tefillah and removing any obstacles. We remove the obstacles of the katrigim with our vidui, and then we arouse Hashem's rachmanus, Hashem's mercy, and we weaken the din through Yud Gimel Midas HaRachamim and the Tachanun. So I think this is a powerful thing. Tachanun is perhaps one of the most challenging tefillos to say, at least in my experience, to say with proper kavanah. You've already kind of spent your kavanah, so to speak, on the Shemona Esrei, building up to the Shemona Esrei, and then you're in the mode, and then you're really trying to give it your all with the Shemona Esrei, and then you're done with the Shemona Esrei, and all too often, certainly during a weekday, during a Shacharis, you're now kind of looking towards the end already, now that you're after the Shemona Esrei, and it's all too easy to kind of mumble through the vidui and the Yud Gimel Midos, and especially the Tachanun. And I think that if we appreciate what we're doing, if we understand that we are protecting our Shemona Esrei and we are making it that much more powerful, I think that that might help us with focusing our kavanah that much more. Okay, moving on. V'ulam zeh, I'm now on the bottom of page 324 in the Feldheim. V'ulam zehu haseder hakolel she'alav nosada hatfila. This is the general order upon which the tefillah is established. V'yesh pratim rabim l'klal zeh. There are many details to this general structure. Shebehem tuluyim pratei haseder b'mizmorim v'shar psukim sheniskenu kol davar b'mekomo. And these details are what determine the more specifics of the order in terms of exactly which mizmor at which point, and when we say certain psukim at certain points. That is all, writes the Ramchal, none of that is random. The order of the Psukkah de Zimra and why we say one part, this Tehillim here, that Tehillim there, this pasuk here, that pasuk there, it is all very much by design, and it gets into the more of the details of this broader construct that we have just learned about. Okay, let's continue.
Rabbi, on days you don't say Tachanun, you're not afford that chain?
Beautiful. Okay, that's an excellent question. And my assumption is, it doesn't look like he's going to get to this, but similar to what he said earlier about why we don't need the full middle 13 brachos of Shemona Esrei on days like Shabbos and Yom Tov, because the holiness of the day substitutes for the function of those brachos. I wonder if it's possible to say that with Tachanun as well, the holiness of those special days on which we don't say Tachanun, that itself provides us with certain special schusim, certain special merits that soften the blow of the midas hadin of Hashem's strict judgment. That's just a theory. The simple pshat, which might also be true, is that even though we are, so to speak, losing out by not saying Tachanun, but the bottom line is that it's not appropriate, because the Tachanun is very much focused on the lowliness of man. And if you really open up your heart and really read the words and really contemplate it, it's close to depressing. Some of the liturgy in the Tachanun. So it could be that even though that is the way that we subject ourselves and that we recognize the lowliness of man, etc., which we benefit from, but it's not appropriate to do on a happy day, because it's just it's not in line with the spirit of the day. So therefore, we can't do that. Those are the two approaches. So either the specialness of the day compensates, or it's just simply not appropriate, even though we are losing something by not saying it. Okay, but that's a great question, Paul. Okay, let's move on to paragraph Tes Zayin number 16. We're now at the top of page 326 in the Feldheim. What you need to know is, She'ine, behold, the Sidrei HaHanhaga, in the order of Hashem's guidance of the world, Hayom yischalek l'shnei chalakim. The day can be divided into two parts. V'hu, that is Haboker, the morning. V'achar chatzos, after midday. Sheben arbayim, which is what we call the afternoon, right? It's afternoon. V'gam halayla, the night as well, it can be divided into two. As we mentioned previously, fine. And that again would be divided by chatzos halaylo, the middle of the night. So there are 4 quadrants to every day. There's the day and the night, and the day is divided into morning and afternoon, and the night is divided also into the beginning of the night and the end of the night, both day and night being divided by not what we call in English noon, but what we call in halacha chatzos, which is halachic midday, the midpoint between sunrise and sunset. V'amnam, the kulam tzara shetimashech ha'orav ha'ashpah la'olamois fi bechinas chelik hazmanahu. Each quadrant of time needs to receive its shefa. It needs to have its connection to Hashem's divine light and divine energy to fuel all of those olamos within that quadrant of time. And based on this, sudrat tefillos b'minyanim. That is why the davening has been ordered in its orders, in its times. V'hinei l'shnei chalakei for the 2 parts of the day, tiknu tefillas shachris and mincha. We have shachris in the morning and mincha in the afternoon. V'hinei baboker in the morning, shuzman his chadesh hashefa. That's when this shefa is renewed, kafi b'chinas hayom, according to the order of the day. Tiknu hased ba'aruka. That's where we have the longest davening, kafi kol mitzarich, for the totality of what is needed. When you get to the second quadrant, which is the second half of the day, which is following the first, it only needs a little bit, doesn't need so much. Just for finishing up for this portion of time. So it's kind of still feeding off of what has been accomplished in the morning through Shachris. Ubelayla, when we get to the nighttime, in order to have a little bit more of a newness, because of changing into a new time frame that we're now from daytime hours to nighttime, the night. That is a more significant change from the day. Bigger than this change from morning to afternoon. Therefore, we have a slightly longer davening than mincha. What is that? We have the brachos of Shema. But it's shorter than the morning, meaning shorter than Shachris. Because nonetheless, because even though it is more separated from the day than the afternoon is separated from the morning, however, there still is a degree of shefa which is coming from the morning. For the second half of the night, the 4th quadrant, they did not require a tefillah at all, because that would be too much. To make people get out of bed in the middle of the night, for that 4th quadrant, that would be too much. But something was left for the Hasidim. Each one should get up and should cry out, each one according to what he understands, what he knows. Even Ma'ariv, Rishus Ha'isa. It's only a Rishus. It has become an obligation. Certainly, that is the case with Tikkun Chatzos. So here is a really fascinating pshat in the Ramchal about why we have the 3 tefillos, Shachris, Mincha, and Mariv, at the 3 times that we have them. And it explains why Shachris is the longest, Mincha is the shortest, and Mariv is a little bit longer than Mincha, but shorter than Shachris. Now, just as an aside, reading through this, I'm thinking to myself, is Ma'ariv really longer than Mincha? Sometimes Mincha takes longer than Ma'ariv. So the answer is obvious. The answer is that's Chazaras Hashatz. That's kind of messing with the amount of time that it takes. But that's really just repeating the same Shemona Esrei. There's nothing extra. There's Mincha is without question shorter than Maariv. Mincha might take more time on the clock, but that's only because the Shemona Esrei is being repeated. But in terms of the number, the amount of different parts that the tefillah has, the tefillah is extremely short. It's Ashrei, Shemona Esrei, Tachanun Aleinu. That's it. Maariv has a whole Birchas Kriya Shema, then a Kriya Shema, then the Birchas Kriya Shema at the end. Then it has the Shemona Esrei and Aleinu. So that is the difference. So the Michal is explaining a fascinating thing that there's this time, the time of the day is divided into 4 quadrants. There's the daytime and the nighttime, and the daytime is divided in half, and the nighttime is divided in half. And each time needs its own draw of shefel, so it needs its own tefillah. And each time is somewhat benefiting from the shefa of the previous time of the day, but to varying degrees, depending on the degree to which it is beginning a new portion of time. So the afternoon is a new portion of the day, but it's still the day, so it's very much connected. So mincha is the shortest. The night is really a continuation from the day, so it doesn't need as much, but it's a much more dramatic switchover from day to night than from morning to afternoon, and therefore Maariv needs to be a little bit longer. And the last quadrant doesn't need anything at all. And he also added the point that would be a tircha de tzibura. But there is still the concept of a tikkun chatzos, which was left for the Hasidim. Now, for the record, the Ramchal didn't say this clearly, but I am going to guess that the Ramchal is following the Shulchan Aruch's tikkun chatzos and not the Arizal. Now, what am I talking about? What is tikkun chatzos really? Tikkun chatzos is a special prayer that's said focusing on the Churban Habayis and the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. It's called tikkun chatzos because the most common minhag of those who say it is to say it at chatzos, to say it at midnight, halachic midnight, which is the Arizal's minhag. However, that's not the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch, all the way in the beginning of Shulchan Aruch, writes that the ideal time to do it is be'ashmoras haboker, which means the last third of the night before sunrise, before day. So that is after chatzos halayla. We're already after the middle of the night. So what I was realizing is that for the Ramchal's theory to work, in the point that he was making at the very end of the paragraph here, he's going to have to be following the Shulchan Aruch and not the Arizal. Because the Ramchal, all the way at the very end of the paragraph, said here that the 4th quadrant, which is the second half of the night after Chatzos, does have a tefillah. But because of the tircha de tzibur, and because it is the least needing of that shefa, it was made optional. It was left optional, I should say. Maariv was also made optional for that reason. But Maariv we accepted it as an obligation. Tikkun chatzos, we never accepted as an obligation. It has remained optional, and has remained only for the Hasidim, only for the select few. But what I'm getting at is that if you follow the Arizal, you're saying it right at chatzos. Maybe it ends up being technically after chatzos, and therefore it's fueling the 4th quadrant that way. But it works out even better if you follow the Shulchan Aruch, because then it's right smack in the middle of that 4th quadrant of the last third of the night. And okay, not exactly smack in the middle, but much, much closer. So I wonder if this would be a legitimate proof that the Ramchal follows the Shulchan Aruch, not the Arizal, in terms of when to say that tikkun. Okay, But that was pretty much as an aside. So that is the Ramchal's explanation of Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv and Tikkun Chatzos, Tikkun Alayla, which is 4 tefillos for the 4 different drawing Shefa for the 4 different quadrants of time. Okay, let's now try to wrap up the chapter. We're closing in the end. V'hinei, Tira, what we see is Ki HaSholosh Tefillos Avos Tiknum, the 3 tefillos, Shachas Mincha and Ma'ariv, and Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv, thank you, Avos Tiknum, the forefathers really established them. Mitzad Zeh Muta Al Kol Yisrael V'Sadron, and therefore it is placed upon every single Jew to arrange them, to recite them. V'ulam Tikkun Chati Alayla Acharona Davin Izdaris. The tikkun of the last quadrant, the second half of the night, David HaMelech strengthened it. As we mentioned, Chatzos Laila Akum Hodus Lach. In the middle of the night, I have risen up to give praise to you. Vehu hamashlim ima avos tikunam shal Yisrael. That's David HaMelech is jumping in to complete what the avos did. Fascinating. The avos covered Shachas Mincha and Ma'ariv, which, according to the Ramchal, is 3 out of the 4 quadrants of time in the day. That leaves one opening that was not addressed. Right? So Ramchal, David HaMelech came along and he completed the picture. And this is in Tehillim and Kuf Yotes. Chatzos Laila Okum Lahudas La. In the middle of the night, I rise up to praise you. So that's the 4th quadrant prayer, which David HaMelech established. However, it was never set, it was never fixed to be placed upon every single Jew. Only on the very pious. Making this prayer one step down from the level of the prayers that the Avos established. Shachus Mincha Ma'ariv, which Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov established, that was on a higher level, and therefore that became obligatory for all the Jewish people. But David HaMelech, that's already a different level than the Avos, than the forefathers, and therefore his prayer, his tefillah, which he established, i.e. Tikkun Chatzos, is also a step down in that it is not obligatory on every Jew. Okay, finally, last 2 lines. V'hinei b'yamei hakodesh nosefes tefillah. On holy days, we have an additional tefillah, that is Musaf. Keneged Karban Musaf. This is Keneged the Karban Musaf, the Musaf offering. V'hi bebechinas hashefa nosaf b'yom hahu kefi bechinas kedushas ha'inyan. And that, of course, is in line with the shefa hanosaf. There's an extra shefa. Musaf is the lashon of extra, of an add-on. There's an extra shefa. There's an extra divine energy that comes on those holy days. So therefore, we need an extra tefillah to line up and to access that extra shefa of that holy day. Okay, shekayach everyone. That was truly enlightening. Going through the structure of the tefillah according to Ramchal. That concludes the 6th chapter. So we will continue next week with chapter 7, which is Ha'avodah Hazmanit, which means the periodic observances or the the different mitzvahs that we have at specific times. And this will get very interesting into taking a similar approach to how the Ramchal broke up the hours of the day and the tefillos, and taking a look at the calendar and the kind of spiritual opportunities, if you will, and the different shefas, the different time frames of Hashem's shefa that we have to access through the different time mitzvahs that are specific to different times of the calendar. Have a wonderful night.